Now, it would strike a lot of people living in Manhattan that Central Park is very important to their lives, and that if Milton Friedman had his way, it would be turned over to the market and buried under skyscrapers and parking lots within 18 months or however long it takes Donald Trump to put the structures up.
It doesn't take a governmental agency to maintain the theaters in New York. It doesn't take a government agency to maintain the museums, the art museums in New York. The Museum of Modern Art is not a government museum. It's a private. It happens to be there are two kinds. There are private for-profit enterprises. There are not-for-profit enterprises, like the museum, like the Opera House, and so on.
Right.
In the same way, if Central Park were not owned by the government, it never would have become the filthy place it became. You forget what happened to Central Park. We, for some years, a long time ago, lived on Central Park West when we were in New York. This was
pretty good address.
During the war.
Well, even then it was a very good address.
It wasn't a bad address, but it wasn't particularly good.
All right.
But we were able to take our children down to the park and when they were babies and leave them with a teenage sitter. And nobody was worried about safety. But in more recent years, until the very recent years, Central Park came to be a place where you wouldn't dare to do that. It wasn't safe. That was because it was a government park. The central principle is that nobody takes care of somebody else's property as well as he takes care of his own. If Central Park were privately owned, it would be advantageous to provide recreational spaces.
Now, you just touched on something very important, because one of the things I'm trying to distinguish here is the extent to which your libertarianism is effectively a moral position. You do it because it's right and just. It creates the greatest conditions of justice. And the extent to which you do it because it works. And it sounds to me as though you have both reasons pretty well wrapped up.
Absolutely. If it didn't work, the main thing is, if it didn't work, it would be an impossible goal. The only reason there's any chance of keeping government limited is because government is so inefficient and does so poorly.